highly recommend Ms. Hicks. Her books, her CDs are encouraging.
I bought her book, A Hill to Climb. She's a very inspirational speaker.
And I look forward to one day being able to work with her. Your power lies within you. Let it loose.
And now, let's welcome your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour, Louise Hicks. In this episode, Black Women and Wealth, Having It All, with special guests Cheray, Harding, Griffin.
Hello, world. How's everybody today? I hope you guys are doing wonderful because today is our kickoff of Women's History Month. And we have a very special guest that's going to share with us today on our topic, Black Women and Wealth, Having It All. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Cheray Harding Griffin is the president of Hargrove Life Group and Wealth Wave Financial in Frisco, Texas. A native of Hampton Roads, Virginia, she attended the HBCU Norfolk State University and graduated from Southern Bible Institute and College. While a freshman in undergrad, Cheray began her career in financial services at Bank of America, serving as the first woman and person of color to head the U.S. Army Travel Card Division with the Department of Defense in Washington, D.C. Later, she served as Senior Vice President and Risk and Compliance Executive in Global Technology and Operations in Dallas, Texas. She championed diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts across the enterprise to include Lead for Women Network, the Black Professionals Group, the Urban Financial Services Coalition, and served as a corporate advisory board partner for the Dallas-Fort Worth Area United Negro College Fund. After retiring from the corporate world in 2016, Cheray embraced her entrepreneurial spirit, becoming a licensed financial services agent with New York Life Insurance Company. There she led the agents of the African American Market Unit in North Texas in our efforts to promote financial literacy and generational wealth strategies in minority communities. She now proudly leads the independent farm Hargrove Life Group, where her true passions in estate planning, legacy building, and memorial consulting touch countless lives each day. Cheray is an advocate for grassroots partnerships and further engages in economic and social efforts as a member of the Frisco Chamber of Commerce, the Collin County Black Chamber of Commerce, and as a volunteer deputy voter register for Collin, Denton, and Dallas counties. Together with her husband and children, Cheray is a faithful member of Friendship Baptist Church in the Colony, Texas. She is certified in evangelical leadership and administration, ministers as a lead praise and worship vocalist, is a biblical studies writer and instructor, volunteers as a youth mentor, enjoys motivational speaking, and serves as a church and pastoral business consultant across the state and beyond. She believes wholeheartedly that any great leader must first be a willing servant, and that is our responsibility to lift others as we climb higher. Cheray sits on the executive board of Dress for Success Dallas, is founder of the Empowered to Serve Christian Outreach and Emergency Intervention Network, is a member of Frisco's Walk of Women, WOW Network, and is head of the Hunt Washington Historical and Educational Foundation. Cheray is an unapologetic woman of faith, guided by the words her grandmother uttered throughout her youth. Let the works that I've done speak for me. She is committed to utilizing her gifts, talents, and girl power to help heal the wounds of those hurting around us, to empower and enrich the lives of minorities throughout her community, and to create more seats at the table of success today, allowing the lady bosses of tomorrow to sit in their God-given authority with authenticity and grace. This lady is on fire. Did you hear that amazing, awesome? I mean, what a legacy. She is amazing. So what we're going to do now is introduce you after I've read this eloquent, elegant bio, Miss Cheray Harding Griffin. How are you today? And welcome.
I am so excited. Thank you, Miss Lou, and hello, ladies and sisters and brothers out there. Thank you so much for having me. That was a mouthful. It didn't look like a lot when it's on paper, but I tell you what, I can sum it up by saying I'm real. Okay.
I know you are, and I stumbled a little bit. I apologize for that.
Oh, no. I'm just real, and the way that I communicate is just that. But we are all the same people. We're all the same under God's earth, and so I do what I was taught to do, and that is to make something better than where you found it. And so I hope that I am making my parents, my grandparents, and everybody else around, my elders, proud that they haven't wasted all those spankings and stuff on me.
And you make us proud as a Black woman of faith with all of your gifts and talents. You really make us proud. And I'm so happy to have you on our show today. And just a little bit to tell you guys how I met Cheray, and then she's going to get into empowering us. I met her because I was looking into insurance and policies and so forth, and she was referred to me by my homeowner's insurance agent. And we kind of just got into a conversation because she is real, and that's how we started talking. It was as if I had known her forever and ever and ever. So I'm just so proud to have her on today to talk with us about Black women and wealth, having it all. Because we know now that our Black people, actually, we are at a deficit with our net worth. We have gone backward. And as Black women, we have the least net worth. And Cheray is going to share with us what we can do to elevate ourselves. So you can give us some information, Cheray, on what your thoughts are as to us as Black women in terms of our wealth and how we can move forward. How did we get in this position with lagging behind in terms of Black wealth?
Absolutely. And again, thank you for having me. So as we talk this afternoon, I wanted to kind of put us in three little categories: the life of a Black woman, the loves of the Black woman, the legacy of the Black woman. Okay. So yes, to step back, I don't think it's coincidental that we are behind the eight ball, if you will, as African-American women, women of color in this country in terms of economic health. It could go into a whole different category and another discussion, but you have to go back to the times of enslavement, right? And it's in our DNA to be survivors, even when our mates that God had designed for us were taken away from us to go and, all that other stuff. So it's happened over generations. And thus, we've always been the ones, though, that can make a dollar out of 15 cents. We can make it stretch. We can make it look good. But the one thing that we are challenged to do, and I say we because I still sit into this category today, we don't always give ourselves credit for that we do, or that we know, or that we should be able to monetize or to pass on. And so, as a whole, I've been a single mother before, divorced, remarried, all that other stuff. I have a wonderful blended family, but it has not been easy. And there are days where it still isn't easy just because we're always wearing different hats. I'm wife, I'm mom, I'm daughter, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the ATM, I'm the nurse, I'm the tech, I'm Uber driver, I'm the one that's got to go fight for them, I'm the lawyer, all of these other things. And who do we leave behind? We leave ourselves behind because we don't pay attention to the fact that we're doing it all on this much, right? I remember a story, a situation probably about 15 years ago now, and I was in a particular role at the bank, and I'm used to being so many of us are used to being the only woman this, the first this, and it doesn't make any sense in 2022. We're still saying that as Black women. So talk back to me so you guys can certainly chime in. But I remember being in this position, and I think I was the only woman, period. All of the men around the table were your, white gentlemen. I think there was one other Black guy. And I remember and their wives, didn't work. I baked cookies too for PTA, but I had to work. And I remember one of the guys said, "How do you do what you do?" And I said, "What do you mean, what you do and what your wife does?" That's probably on 5.5 hours of sleep. That's about it. But we don't let ourselves look like what we're going through. And so if you step back and look at where we are in terms of the life cycle of the African-American woman in the United States today, do you realize that 80% of households are led by single moms? That's all ethnicities and races. What is that percentage for us, right? So that is already we're already on shaky ground because we don't have necessarily always that support. And doesn't mean that it could be, widowed, it could be divorced, it could be, all of those situations. But I always say that if you want to make an impact in the world, you have to start at home. The woman is if you think of a bullseye, the bullseye has the red thing in the middle and it goes around in the ring. Who's in the dead center? It's us. And so if you want to affect the children that's on the outside of the ring, you got to go through mom. If you want to affect the neighborhood and the community, you start at home. If you want to affect the world, you get the community involved. And so thus, we really are the pillars. And God designed us like that, right? Adam couldn't do this stuff by himself. He needed Eve, all that other stuff. But, we were created. And I always say, our men tend to think that, they're in charge and they run things, and we let them think that, but we know who really is the mastermind, right? So we know where the bodies are buried. We know how we know how everything is supposed to run. And when it's all said and done, what do? They turn and say, "Baby, what you think?" Exactly. So
and I hear you on that. I love the way you've broken it down with life, love, and legacy, and how you're giving about the life and the basics of what our role is as females in this life cycle that we travel. And I love that. I love what you're saying. Like, charity does start at home. So just continue and carry on. I really love what you're saying, because this is empowering. And also, I'd like to say, if anyone would like to speak, please put it in the chat or raise your hand. There's a button on it where it has where you can raise your hand, and I can call on you if you have questions. How we are running this, pretty much Cheray is going to give the presentation, and she's open to entertain doing her presentation, right? Cheray, is just, we need to have you to raise your hand and I can let you know that you have a question.
Certainly, thank you. And I love interactive. So however you want to facilitate it, Ms. Lewis, is fine with me. So I'm going to give you a couple of statistics beyond, the percentage of single women. And whether you're married or not, we still are at the center of everything. And so it's not by design that many times we are the ones that kind of come under attack and we're having to figure things out because if it can throw us off, it throws off everything else. So we have to be very, very aware that we have a responsibility. And sometimes it's overwhelming because emotionally and mentally, we've got to check back out, right? Just a little bit. And I'm going to veer off just a second, Miss Lou. The conversation about, you always put your own face mask on before you help the person beside you on the plane. I didn't understand that. For me, that was so selfish. Of course, I'm going to put my baby's face mask on first. And then I realized I can't pour from an empty cup. I can't breathe for her or him or the rest of them if I don't have it myself. And thus, if we don't have our financial houses in order, we don't realize that we are teaching the very same habits that maybe we learn, how to rob Peter to pay Paul. Amen, somebody. You got to wait for the cutoff notice before you pay something, right? But what's happening is that our children are inadvertently learning those behaviors. And so what my goal right now in this second phase of life is to brainwash the heck out of our children, to have them think just the opposite. Because if they think, yes, I am rich, I am a child and a of the king, I'm already that, this, that, and the other, I'm royalty, I am regal, then they won't have the mentality of, I need to wait for somebody to give me something. Again, I'm not asking for a seat at the table. I'm just trying to pick out which one is going to fit, my back good, right? So that's exactly how I want my girls especially to look at life. So to back up for a second, when you're looking at how the American economy works, it's run off of what? Taxes. It's run off of retail, commodities when you're going out shopping. So who are the biggest shoppers or consumers in the United States? It's Black people. And in most cases, it's Black women. And so we pay on average 85% of taxes in the United States. Stop. Who else is here? What is our percentage here? We make up what, 18%, if you say? Why are we paying 85%? Because we don't necessarily know how the system works, right? And how to use those tax codes and things to our benefit, whereas these things are taught as a baby in other cultures. I'm not going to say it, the Kennedys, the Kardashians, if you will, the Rockefellers, heck, even the Trumps, they know this stuff from toddlerhood, okay? And so these are part of the things that we have to learn, and you don't have to have a whole lot of money to make some baby steps. So the first thing that we want to do is to make sure that we are not overpaying in taxes, or we are not leaving tax debt to our loved ones. I mean, many of us have already had to, unfortunately, deal with, burying a loved one, a parent, a grandparent, or a spouse or something like that. And it's not even cheap to die in the United States, okay? And so one of the key things that we should be doing besides taking care of our health, right? Taking care of our spiritual health, our mental health, is making sure that we are building a foundation of our financial legacy. That starts typically not with your 401k at work, not with your savings account that's going to earn 0.000.2 on it. It is life insurance. There are two different main types of life insurance. As Black people, we're taught life insurance is for death. That's what we use to pay. And versus pay for a service versus, it says it right in its name, life. It is for your life and the lives of those that you care for, but it's for your life. You don't have to be gone on to glory to be able to tap into your stuff, okay? So two different types. There's whole life insurance, which does just exactly what it says. It's there for your whole life. And then there is a term insurance. Think of that as a rent-to-own car, right? And so you may not be able to, and based off of your income and your budget and things of that nature, you may have a blend of two, but the term is for a specific term. It might be 5 years, it might be 15, it might be 20, 30, or what have you. But the key thing is to start that early. while we still have help on our side. And even if you don't have it today, guess what? It's not too late. There is a product out there that can work for you and your budget, but we want you to know what you can do to maximize what's in it. There's some hidden stuff that if you don't raise your hand to ask or educate yourself, you'll never know that. Guess what? I can use this as a savings account. I can go in here and call these people and say, I need you to send me $5,000 because I need to go, buy me a new car, right? And guess what? It's tax-free going in and tax-free coming out. Where else can you go for that? Nowhere in the United States. And you pay yourself back or you don't, period. Okay? That's how, that's one of the greatest benefits of whole life. One of the things that I like to tell my clients, and I have a couple of buckets. I have my young families, I have my millennials, and then I work specifically also with the retiree population and the elderly, because I do quite a bit of legacy planning, estate planning, burial, all that other good stuff. When you have the best health of all is when you're what? Young. You haven't had time for your hormones to get out of whack after having children. You haven't had time, in most cases, for the genetic things that happen to us as Black people with age show up. The sugar, sugar diabetes, the high blood pressure, all the cholesterol. That's not even a factor. So you can put a policy on your, let's take, for example, your grandbabies. Anybody have children or grandbabies? Two weeks old, we can put something on that child. You can put, and they're typical, 99.9% of the time, they are whole life. Whole life earns dividends. It earns cash value. Remember I said that savings account over at Wells Fargo or Chase, and I'm not trying to, down anybody, but I'm just giving an example. They really don't earn anything anymore. Back in the day, we used to have savings bonds and CDs and all that other stuff. That is very, very low in terms of what they earn, and they're all taxable. Okay. So we put stuff in there thinking that it's safe, but we're not getting as much of a return. Whereas guess who already knew to go down the street to the insurance company? They did, right? And so the whole life typically is going to earn somewhere about 4.5% to 6% per year. Got a calculator? Do some math. That's your money, okay? Same type of premise where you've heard of those college savings plans, the 529 plans. They are basically wrapped in the bubble of a life insurance policy. You just don't know that. They don't celebrate it like that, but that's exactly how the US Congress and the Federal Reserve designed those to be. And it's for those who have wealth, who need to keep wealth, and it skirts everything around the economic system. When you pass on that policy that you bought for grandbaby, let's back up. Suppose you put, and I'm just going to give an amount. Suppose we put $100,000 on grandbaby, right? And you're paying so much, it's probably going to be right about $25 to $30 a month, period. Now, you own it, right? But when grandbaby turns 18, guess what? How much money has accumulated in there, right? That accumulation in and of itself is enough for baby normally to go to school, okay? Grandma, I'm going to write you a little check, or I'm going to write it to whoever university, and we don't want you to ever know where the financial aid office is. Just keep on going to class and go right on around them. Guess what? Also, you still have money that's growing in there. If by chance you need to take a little something out for yourself, that's fine. That doesn't mean that the policy dissipates, okay? And so by the time that baby graduates them from college or is 30 years old, you might have enough sitting in there for her to have her own down payment for her own house, okay? That's exactly how the billionaires in this country do. They utilize the tax code and those tax-free or tax-deferred options to be able to keep money. It's not enough to grow it. You got to keep it. That's where we are taken advantage of, I guess. And it's just because nobody sits to talk to us about it, right? And we don't know it for ourselves. We think it's for somebody else. There is but probably one, maybe two options in the United States that is tax exempt. Exempt means you don't touch it ever. Tax deferred means I don't pay it today, but I'm gonna pay it sometime, or I might pay it today and I don't pay it tomorrow. What we want to focus on and what's exempt, okay? So typically that's life insurance. So I'll tell you for an example, if a Kardashian baby is born tomorrow or a Kennedy baby, I guarantee you they're gonna put a $4 million policy on that baby, at least. What do you think that $4 million looks like in 18 years? Whose money is that? It's the mama and daddy's money. Now you can choose to gift it to the child, or you can have it so that when you pass on, they automatically inherit it. That's what's been happening for centuries in this country, okay? And so we may not have $5 million to leave, but we can leave them something other than debt, okay? So, and then, when you are of age and maybe you need to have a private in-home nurse, because many times we don't put our loved ones in nursing homes. And then quite honestly, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, it's too expensive to do, quite honestly. Then what do? You can tap into that and say, I'll just pay for my own nurse to come here. Y'all don't need to take me to Shady Pines, okay? That too is how you're benefiting from your own policy while you're still here. The other thing with life insurance, and it escapes the probate process, and probate is really just the process of making sure that your estate is taken care of when you're not here anymore. Whether you have a will or not, if you put a beneficiary down, that is who gets it, hands down, no questions asked, and they never pay taxes. It has nothing to do with who's on your house note with you. It has nothing to do with who you're married to. I've had a couple of clients who forgot to take their ex-husband off of their stuff, and guess who got the money him and new boo, and not sure, you know what I'm saying? So this is why I'm like, I'm very passionate about be aware of what you have. So you have, and a lot of times companies will offer you benefits packages, your medical, your dental, your vision, your retirement, your 401k matching, all that other good stuff, and insurance. That's great. Maximize what they're going to give you for as little or nothing, okay? If they're going to just automatically give you a $100,000 term policy, sign yes, I want it, okay? But the trick is this, as long as you're employed with them. When you leave, that goes too. That's what hurts us, because a lot of times we stay on a job for 40 years, right? I retired after 25 years, but had I gone on, guess what would have happened? By the time I'm retiring at 62, I retired with 62 years of service, my age and my 25 years. So y'all can do the math, y'all know how old I was. I probably would not have been able to get that same $100,000 policy for $4 a month, right? It probably would have been 40 or something like that. And at that time, you start looking at, I'm on a fixed income. I know exactly what my monthly expenses are, all that other good stuff. So you want to be careful of that. So use what they have, but always layer. What mama said, always keep you one in the back pocket, right? Okay, so that's where you want to look at what your budget is, and your any good agent or advisor will help you to determine what works for you. I will always say, if you tell me you can afford 150, we're gonna try to aim at 99, because I need you to have some wiggle room, and I'm not here to blow your budget. But at the same time, life happens. And so the one thing we don't want to do is to lose something that we're going to need later. Okay. And so that's that 401k and savings. Of course, you want to put a little something aside every month. But do you know, in many of your life insurance policies, you can put a little something in every month. And it may cap you at how much you can put in per year before it does say, okay, we're getting too close to the IRS code for the year. And so you may have to just put a little bit in there. But you can, if your company is going to do a matching, sometimes it's 3%, sometimes it's 4%, utilize that as much as possible. So that means if you put in 3, they're going to put in 3. That's 6. Start doing the math, because it allows you to see, okay, this is where I can start to plan what my exit strategy is going to be. And we can certainly talk about that, and I want to preface this by saying, this is not for me to be your servicer. This is for me to help impart, or at least get the wheels turning, and then talk to whomever you trust. Do some read. There's some self-calculators I can share with you, but that will help you in saying, you know, I may only have an extra $25 a month. How can I make this work for me? We can do it. You can do it. So don't count yourself out. The Social Security, everybody's familiar with the Social Security Administration. I'm not one of the ones that subscribes to the belief that the Social Security will, you know, collapse completely. Now, is it going to take a hit on the chin? Probably, and some more. However, it's not the same that our parents and grandparents had. You know, back in those days, they had pensions. How many places do you know have a pension today, unless you're a government worker, state government, federal worker? Many companies don't do pensions anymore.
Hey, Cheray.
Ma'am.
When you mentioned about pension, I just wanted to say this about pensions, and you said government. The government is not even offering pensions like they did before, because I worked for the County of Los Angeles, and I just want you guys to know that pensions are not the same as they used to be either. When I retired in 2006 from LA County, I had the best pension plan that they offered back when I started right out of college in 1973. However, that has totally changed now. So even working for the government now, the pension plans are not the way they used to be. You're pretty much on your own. And what Cheray is saying is so valuable and vital, because there are alternatives now, and she's giving you lots of alternatives. Does anyone have any questions you want to ask so far? If so, if not, we will carry on. Thank you. You're sharing some valuable information.
I think Miss Robin has one.
Oh, go ahead, Robin.
Well, I have high blood pressure. You mentioned I've been disabled since 2011. And my husband passed away in 2015, so I'm on my own.
Yes, ma'am.
But he did have a pension, and I get his Social Security.
Amen.
I'm happy to say I don't have no bills besides your normal, you know, if it wasn't for him, believe me. But anyway, I really never understood life insurance, because, you know, if you smoke and do they raise it, or does it stay the same? Like, if I have to pay $55 a month, if I want to, like, say, $50,000 policy, there's categories, right?
Yes, ma'am. The ratings. It depends. Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead.
Health, and so everybody keep telling me to get life. And my son, Mom, you better get some life insurance, because I'm a sick person. I really am. But I just, the monthly payment is what confuses me.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for bringing that up. So this is where I, one of my niche markets, if you will, are for my mature clients, typically age 60 and over. I do quite a bit with nonprofit leaders, pastors, just under 1,000 pastors across the state. What's the average age? 60. We got some stuff that's already in our DNA. Whether I put an ounce of salt on my mashed potatoes or not, it's already there, right? And so, just like with anything else, with the medical charts at the doctor's office, whose body type is that? Who is that modeled after? It's modeled after white women, right? So we got a little bit more over here in the backside, so we're always going to be obese, right? But there are options out there. So let me talk to you about ratings, because that's what you brought up, based off of health. And this is why I said take care of your health. If you can put something on your child early enough, or grandbaby, right? It can be on your gardener's goddaughter if you want to, if you have an insurable interest. We're just taking that out of context for a moment. But what you can do is, you will have to do some kind of a medical check. It may not necessarily be a blood draw. It may not necessarily be where you're going to give labs, urine, all that other good stuff. Since COVID, most people don't let some random nurse come in your house and take your stuff. So ask your agent if they will allow medical records from the last 12 to 24 months. You've been to the doctor at some point and they did your blood pressure, they did all of that. Use those, okay? Unless you have worked to improve yourself, because it is based off of health rating. So if you've got some risk, I mean, the majority of my family that I have taken care of, we have diabetes and we have strokes, and it takes some movement to make those work, but I can do it. It just means that, while I know I need to give Nana 75,000, I can't get her right there right now, but I can build to it. So, we eat this elephant one bite at a time. So that's one thing. So one way that you can help your labs, I always tell people, try to do a good 2 week, maybe 3 weeks worth of a good cleanse. And I'm not telling you go and take a whole bunch of pills. What I'm saying is put your sodas down, right? 2 weeks, drink water. And if you can avoid caffeine, try that. Back up off of your red meats, if at all possible. And for sure, try to eat your baked stuff. I'm not saying go salads completely, but just remember, every little bit helps. And then you do it first thing in the morning. When you have to go to the doctor, if they tell you how to come do labs, ask, can I be there at 7 o'clock when y'all open the door? Because when I leave there, I'm going to go get my cup of coffee and my donut. But while I'm there, my sugar is great. I have been able to flush my body and stuff. That little manipulation, 2 good weeks can change from being $50 a month to $35. I'm telling you, it can happen. So be very, very strategic about when you're going, because you want to make sure that it gives you the best result, okay? And then, of course, watching your sugar. And when I say sugar, cut down on your bread. I'm not saying do this forever, but if you can do that 2 weeks before you've got to go to your doctor's office and give labs or whatever, that changes. There are special circumstances. I'm certified to do the AARP population by the state of Texas. And so, we already have in consideration, there's going to be some challenges. Instead of you being superior rating, there are tiers to it. Doesn't mean that you can't have it. It just means that each tier costs a little bit more money. Go back to when your kids started driving and you had to put them on your car insurance. Who was higher, that boy or that girl? It was the boy, right? But if they're younger, they're still going to jack you up, right? And so it's the same thing almost in reverse on life insurance. Your husband is probably going to be more than you, right? Same age, everything else. And it's just, typically we outlive them. So that's one good way for life insurance. And then 2, look at what your expenses are and what you need to take care of. If your son is telling you, Mama, you need to get something, is that because we need to make sure you've got enough for final expense? Do you have a mortgage or a house that you need to leave him? All this other good stuff. My parents passed away, my dad in 2014, my mother-in-law in 2016, and my mom 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years this year. And it was something where he had a pension. Now they don't have that, and he worked for the government. That's not the same pension they give out today, but it was enough that I'm like, okay, we got this much. We got to have you live here. We're not going to have you. He didn't find you in a cardboard box. So just because he's gone off, you're not going to go live in a cardboard box. Oh, and by the way, she was a shopaholic. Okay. She had booked a trip to Alaska. I found out after she had died. I'm like, what? She was all stage 4 cancer, had booked the trip to Alaska. I had to call Royal Caribbean and ask for the deposit back. But we knew exactly how much it was going to cost for her services, what she wanted. Base it at a minimum, base it off of that, okay? And then back your way into it. I will tell you, I'm also a mortician, or have been, and we're getting ready to do something more with that. I'm never gonna tell you a family what to do, but I will always say, if you don't need to put money in the ground, don't do it, okay? Because people still have to live afterwards. You don't need 10 limousines for everybody to, slide through town looking cute. when in 6 months, you might not be able to pay taxes on the house, right? You can't feed everybody the chicken wings and the green beans when you got to pay the light bill tomorrow. So let's be real and be strategic about how you coordinate things. So start with your final expense and back out. You know, if you got some things that you want to make sure that are there when your son, you know, if you got a car you want to give to him and all this stuff. You know, my mother had bought a brand new car, never drove it a day in her life, 2 months before she died, and had it that it was going to be a gift for me, except it wasn't paid off. And I was like, thank you. Y'all can have this Cadillac back. Because, but you know, her heart was in the right place. So that was one thing on life. I'm going to pivot just a minute to the loves of your life. Our loves are our children, our mates, but guess what else is a love? It's what's deep down in here. So if you've got a dream, right? You write a book, start a business, all this other things. I always say, there was this thing that God kept saying to me, and I was like, he's talking to somebody else. He's not talking to me. It will wear you down until you stop and say, yep, I'm going to have to step into this. So if he gave you that vision, he's giving you everything in order to walk into it. So the majority of businesses started or in this country that are female led is about 40%. Those are the businesses that are reported. Black women, we are entrepreneurs. I'm going to go up to say 80% of the time. We got a job. We do hair on the side. We know we'll sell some Mary Kay, some jewelry, you know, a whole lot of things. The side hustles, those are businesses. Why aren't we taking advantage of the tax code that's out there for business owners, right? Okay, and so that's one of those things. So those loves, being an entrepreneur, whether it be what Miss Lou is doing now and starting, you know, if she has a YouTube channel, that stuff is monetized. They make good money. I don't know about her, but I'm just saying, I heard it and I've seen it. And so I'm like, well, you know, they ain't over there talking about nothing. So maybe I should, you know, but if you have a vision or a business, there are resources out there specifically designed for African-American women, minority women, particularly since the George Floyd incident. Sometimes they're not stated and they're not published. You have to start talking to the right people at your local level, your county, your city level. But there is something called Lift Fund, L-I-F-T, capital L-I-F-T. Lift Fund is specifically around geared towards helping minority women start businesses. And I believe their threshold goes right up to 50, and then there's a different category for that. In order for you to get grants, not loans, grants to start your business, okay? Or to grow your business. You may have, you know, the best cake recipe in the world, but, you know, how do you brand your stuff? How do you patent it? That's what they're there for. They're in most metropolitan areas, in Dallas, Fort Worth. The local one, I believe, is in downtown Dallas or right off the freeway towards that area. But they are business coaches that are there and they walk step by step with you. And so open your mouth and just don't be afraid of the word no, because how many times have we been told no? We still keep going, right? Black women, women of color particularly, we are, and I'm saying we have a tendency to think we have to have all of it buttoned up before we even move on. We got to have all the degrees. We have to have all the training. We have to have all the years of experience before we even open our mouths and step. Well, guess what happens? The other ones, it's what's the word? It's an entitled thing, right? They're just supposed to have it. So they just do it and figure it out when they get there. We're the ones that don't do that. I mean, I want to go in a different conversation, but we had a president that didn't know nothing, right? One was super overqualified and the other one knew nothing, right? But he stepped into it because he just thought he's supposed to. We are the ones that talk ourselves out of it. And so I want to challenge each of us in this Women's History Month to do one thing. I call it a T chart, and I'll write it down. Okay, I hope this will come up on the screen, okay. It's a T, right? You got the plus side and the minus side. Whatever you want to accomplish in the first 6 months of this year, or whatever you know you've got working for you, write them down on the plus side. On the minus side, that's what we got to focus on, right? 1 to 2 things. Ultimately, at the end of the 6 months or the first 6 months, what we want to be able to do is move one of those things over to the positive side. That's how we can track your momentum and then be able to give yourself credit. Say, wait a minute, I'm a bad chick over here, but we don't give ourselves credit, right? And so that's one thing. And then do that at least every 12 months, but I challenge you to do it every 6 months, because if it's finances, if it's your health, you want to lose a little bit of weight, you want to make sure that your child graduates with honors, whatever that might be, put it down and have it on a vision board. If do a vision board, do it on your computer, something where it reminds you that I'm not just in this rat race. I'm getting up every morning, I'm going to these people's job, I'm coming home, all this other stuff. You have something that is important, and it's a love inside of you that's important to get out. The last thing I'm going to talk about is your legacy. And so legacy means to me what lasts outside of the years that I'm on this earth. And again, I have had the honor of seeing entrepreneurship in previous generations. My granddad owned the first Black gas station in our area. My grandmother was a hairstylist. And then by the time I was in kindergarten, they had a whole nother business. Now, my mom and all of them, they were spoiled. But to that extent, back in the 40s and 50s, when it was unheard of, they said, why not? Right. And then, of course, at that point, Black businesses were just like anywhere else, Black Wall Street, they supported each other. That's something that I believe, whether they know it or not, that legacy was planted in my head because I saw it. Remember, we talked about brainwashing the children? I didn't see anything different. I saw that. So even if you don't have to let them see you sweat, you might know behind the scenes that I'm struggling a bit, but your children think you're just walking on water, right? So Social Security, everybody knows about Social Security. Ms. Robin brought this up. Early age of retirement is 62. The normal retirement age is 70. By the time you're 72 and a half, if you haven't started taking out Social Security, you will get penalized for not taking your own money, okay? So look at your spouse's Social Security, look at yours. You can go on to irs.gov and you can do your own little calculation on how much would your Social Security check be at the time you retire or you forecast to retire. Factor in about a 4% inflation, give or take. Just be on the safe side, because what you don't want to do is to outlive your money. And by goodness, we're not going to do that, okay? And so what I always tell my clients is, whatever Social Security is going to give you, let that be your paycheck. Whatever else you have on the side, your businesses, your life insurance benefits, whatever's in your savings, let that be your paycheck. Again, my mama never stopped going to the nail salon. As a matter of fact, I had to tell her put her cards up because she got a little too crazy. And I'm just like, oh God. And I knew how much the budget was. And it was not what it was when my dad was alive, but the lifestyle didn't change. And thus, what we want to make sure of is that we are looking at our Social Security benefits and what's in our retirement plan. If you need to scale back, scale back. You know, yes, it's nice to always be in the house that we found ourselves in and stuff, but if it doesn't match, don't be afraid to pivot, because we don't, you know, we are not supposed to not take care of ourselves in that season. Long-term care. Many insurance policies, they're standalone long-term care policies, but in your life insurance, you can actually put a rider on that says, if I get sick, then this policy that also has a benefit that pays my in-home nurse or my memory care center. The average nursing facility, and I'm going to use Dallas-Fort Worth, is $8,000 per month. That's a whole lot of mortgages put together. And think about it. If you're 75, 80 years old, are you really in a position to take care of all of that? And oh, and heaven forbid, you have an Alzheimer's situation. And so You have, Medicaid and Medicare and all those other things, but they typically would want you to have no more than $2,000 of assets, period. That means if you have a life insurance policy, you are considered too wealthy to have it. And so basically you'd be poor before you could even take advantage of it. And so what I encourage people to do is to make sure that you do a little bit of something that has you still having control over what happens to you, but also allows, your children, your grandchildren, whatever, to come see about you after they get off of work, after they get out of school. You don't, you're not that much of a burden. And that's one thing I remember my mother and then they did not want to be a burden. And it bothered her to have me retire to take care of her, but we wouldn't have had it any other way. But 80%, it's probably more like 82% of caretakers in the US are women. It's the spouse, it's the oldest daughter, it's the oldest granddaughter, it's a niece, it's a daughter-in-law. The guys are somewhere about 10%. And then you sprinkle in, friend, neighbor, church folks, whatever. And so not only are we taking care of folks on the front end, we're taking care of them on the back end. And so what we want to make sure is that you plan your estate appropriately. If you can live and be comfortable the way you are, you have been able to reap the benefits of things that you have done. One of the things that, from a legacy standpoint, is being able to leave a little something for those behind. Now, back to my mortician hat. I don't want to give little Booby the rest of grandmama's policy, but he has no clue on how to spend the money, right? He goes out and gets an Escalade and then has no clue about everything else, right? So one of my jobs is to educate and say, okay, you got this. Do you really need, can you put 1,000 over here? Just let it do what it's going to do. That in and of itself is a legacy. If you're able to say, okay, 90% of my policy are going to my children, but I might have grandchildren, and you can say, I want at least 1,000 to go to each grandchild, whatever that might be it in the form of a trust, be it in the form of a beneficiary, be it in the form of whatever. That legacy is what we have got to start doing so that the children that we're pouring everything into, right? We'll stand in front of a Mack truck for one of ours. Yes? Raise your hand. So there's nothing that would stop us from putting them in the best position when it's time for them to go off and be great. Again, particularly our daughters, our granddaughters, our nieces, those little girls that are looking up to us today, they need to be able to have, they shouldn't have to start from scratch. Some people have the mentality, well, I worked hard for it, and they're gonna work hard. Yeah, that's cute, but let's be real. If they can step into the universe on a more stable ground, that gives them a place to jump from versus jumping out of sand. How do you jump out of sand? How do you jump off of a trampoline? Two different things. And so that's what I talk about when I say your life, this is what we do every day. Your loves, don't forget your own passion and the resources that are out there. There are lots of different ones. I just touched on a couple. And then your legacy. What does your last days look like? And then what does the lives of those that you have poured into look like when you're gone on to heaven? So that's where I'm going to stop. I just touched on a bit, but certainly if I can be of any help or point somebody in the right direction in your local area, whatever, give me a holler and I can help you. But more importantly, I have a passion around making sure that what God has put in each of us doesn't go to waste, even when we're gone on, right? We have resources out there, but it's not something that's typically told to us. And we have to start to rethink ourselves and say that, we are right. We're actually higher and have a more access than what we think we have. We may be working, we may be balling on a budget, but we can do it. Okay. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you, Miss, for letting me have some words.
Yes, that awesome. Great. Does anyone have any questions? Because I do have a couple. Okay, go ahead, Robin.
Hey, unfortunately, I can't work, but I'm doing okay, and every time I want to accomplish something, I'm on a mission.
Yes.
That's what I lived in Apple Valley and I had a house and I'm like, I'm on a mission.
Mm-hmm.
All my down the hill.
Mm-hmm.
I say, And so I'm on this mission. I'm like, I'm fixing to sell my house and I'm there with my family because my husband's gone. I'm 100 miles away, whatever, maybe 75. And so I sold my house and I bought me a mobile home. And my sister's around the corner and my son is 20 minutes away and my grand. Oh, and I was able to pay cash for my mobile home.
Amen.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful. And that's where I commend you for that.
Well,
Yes, it's one thing about being familiar and being comfortable, but it's another thing about, wait a minute, my grandmother used to say, some die so others may live. I didn't know what that meant for a long time, but it really is, okay, so I can do a little bit more. I haven't been called home to glory yet. So while I'm still here, do I need to just sit around and look at Wheel of Fortune and Young and Restless all day? I got stuff to do. And while you still have breath in your body, somebody is ready to sit at your feet and just say, okay, well, Ms. Robin, what you got to say? Because I'm gonna take notes on everything you're talking about, right? And so I was a product of being at grandmama's knee and mama's knee. I was, you don't talk when grown people are talking back in those days, but I sat and listened and I paid attention to everything. And one other thing I did want to say before we disconnect here, keep those things private to you to a need to know basis. Don't let the left hand know what the right one is always doing from a charity standpoint, but as well, everybody don't need to know all your business, especially even if you're older. I want you to be very, very cautious about not oversharing. Share what you need to with your children, with your grands or whomever, but you don't need to necessarily overshare. Document it somewhere, okay? And not to say anybody's family is kind of, has some issues or what have you, but I have seen folks act a little silly behind a zero, and heaven forbid you put 2 zeros behind it and they are a whole different beast. Okay, so need to know basis. You don't walk around showing your credit report to everybody. You don't walk around showing your bank statement. Close your mouth. Okay, and then even as it relates to your dream, just if you still have this working, you're still dreaming. You're still here. This is a different thing, but everybody can't pour into that dream. Everybody's not ready to absorb it. Do what you need to do, and then bring them onto the train, if you will. But be mindful of who you have in your most trusted inner circle. You got a trusted circle, but your most trusted inner circle, and they need to know too, is just like the mafia, hush. Don't say nothing to nobody, okay? So I just wanted to put that out because I know that all of us have experienced that to some point, but just be mindful that it's not for public consumption. And I've seen that go wrong before.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. And I just wanted to share something quickly here too, because this is Women's History Month and today's topic is Black women and wealth, having it all. And as an ethnic part of the Black group or family, for lack of another word, we as Black women need to really watch our spending habits, because that's a major issue within our Black community, not just with us as women, but our spending habits, period. We need to learn, and Cheray has given us some valuable information on what we need to get educated on. And I just wanted to share you a breakdown of the net worth, a racial breakdown quickly here, average net worth. And this is from 2019. And in terms of our Black community, we have gone backward. But the white racial average net worth breakdown was $983,400. The Black net worth, $146,800. Latino net worth, $300,000. Multiracial and other identities was $486,800. So when you look at the disparities between white, Black, Latinos, and multiracial and other identities, there's a vast, significant number actually.
Mhm.
And we are at the lowest at 146,800. Latino, 203,300. And the white, 983,400.
They have
That's
land,
a
they have
huge
property.
difference. Yes, because
They have land, they have
started.
property, and those other ethnicities, particularly those that come into the country, they come in with benefits. Those that
Yes.
come in legally, right? They say that they come in with a credit score already up here. Okay.
Mhm.
They come in with some built-in financial resources. And then the other thing is culturally, they live together.
Yes.
Even the Latino population, that's part of a cultural thing, but they are they are probably business owners far more than they are workers. We are the workers and the consumers. They'll cut your grass. You know what I'm saying? They'll open the Cuban restaurant or cafe or what
Yes.
have you, right? We are the ones that's going in and buying it, but we're not the ones that's owning it. And so there's a difference because, in my opinion, and I don't have a data point to reference, but coming into the country knowing that you are at a disadvantage, they speak their own language, right, amongst themselves, but they pool their resources and they are absolutely 1000% looking out for each other first.
And that's what we have to do. That's why I started this podcast. And anyone is welcome. However, our primary focus is on us as Black people because charity does start at home. And we are the most divided ethnic group. So therefore, we do have to come together and start helping one another, sharing information like what Cheray has done today. And you mentioned something about Lift Fund.
Lift Fund. I'll put it in the chat. Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
put that in the chat because she did also put in her chat. If you need any referrals, please feel free to reach her, and she's given her information in the chat, and get that Lift Fund because this is about sharing information and helping one another because we as a Black community has gone backward in terms of our network. So we need to look at this and take it seriously. And we really need to do some due diligence on our own. And I'm so grateful and thank you for coming in to share this information with us because it is helpful information. You've given us a lot to think about. Take that plus and minus T and utilize it that Cheray has given because that way you can see what you're doing. And that's important. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know how you're spending your time. And we do spend a lot of time. In fact, we as an ethnic group, Black, we watch more TV than any other ethnic groups, according to statistics. And we could be investing that time in something educational, as Barbara said, that's going to help us. And Barbara said that it's very educational. I see it in the chat. And we really thank you because it was very educational. And you made another point that I wanted to ask about, Cheray. I know we're going a little bit over, but we started a little bit after the 1 o'clock hour as well. You were talking about the long-term care, and that could be, I guess, a rider on your policy. Is that something you have to get at the initial policy, or is it something you can add on later to your policy, a long-term care rider?
Most of the time, that one is not able to be added on afterwards.
Okay.
So you get it up front, or you pay, or you get a whole different long-term care policy in and of itself. And again, what you don't use, you don't lose. It just goes to your heirs. Okay. And then what I also wanted to share too, long-term care, we can, if we ever want to do a sidebar, sometimes everybody's been on Zooms and, sometimes families meet once a month. I'll go to different people's family calls, like I'm their cousin or whatever, and talk about these things because we need to. But particularly my college graduates, my 20-somethings and stuff, they get out of school and they, get these job offers making all this money and are just as crazy and don't know what to do. So, but guess what? My girls, I think one of them has like a $500 $500,000 term policy. I'm like, if you can put your Chick-fil-A up once a month, you can pay for this. That same policy for somebody my age is much higher. And so helping them at that age, particularly before they start having children, before they get married, whatever, a lot of times I'm auntie to a whole lot of millennials and those young people, because sometimes they won't tell mom and dad, but they'll tell me. And so make sure that your village is around you and those that you love. Okay. So I did put my phone number and my email. If I can help point you in the right direction, I'm happy to do so. If we need to have a sidebar or what have you. And I've got a couple of other tools and resources. If you just need a little template to kind of go through some checklists and things, let me know what I can do. And I'm happy to share that. But most importantly, give yourself grace and credit for where you are today, right?
Absolutely.
You're not living in somebody's gutter. You're not hand to mouth. You're okay. It's never too late to put a plan in motion. Okay.
Absolutely. And your spending habits, that is just so vital, because we know it's income tax time now too. And some of us will be getting 6,000-7,000, maybe more, some of these single Black parents, and we really need to hone in and focus on single Black parents. Take that money and put it aside, because there are investment opportunities, real estate, stock market. We don't talk much about that. We're going to talk some more about some of these investments that we can utilize our money for, like real estate, stock, cryptocurrency is coming into play now. There's so much out here that we can do with our money rather than spending it as soon as we get it on things that will not benefit or give us value for the legacy that Cheray mentioned, the love, the life, the legacy. We need that.
The Jordans they're not going to appreciate, right? The new purse is not going to appreciate. But that same little bit of money that you put over here, it could be a shack on a corner piece of land. That's going to appreciate, if nothing else. And then you talked about education. I make it a point to read my news feed that comes through my phone every day. And then I think CNBC does a money one, and particularly I think they do African-American money. I love that one. But it's important to read to know what they out there thinking and what they're out there saying.
Yes.
Okay? We knew that this gas prices were going to go up when we saw this foolishness starting over there. When you just start to, if you don't do anything else, just read a couple of things that helps you to be a lot more, not just strategic, but conversant, but as well, you know how to hone that gift and talent and skill and be able to help the communities that we're in, because enough of us don't read. We think it's not for us, and when it really is. And so I thank you again, ladies, for having me. I pray that
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that you said you read every day again, Cheray?
It's on my news feed on my phone, but Yahoo News is a good one. But CNBC Money, I believe it is. I subscribe.
CNBC.com. That's where I just got. I was going to share. That's where I got this information from. CNBC.com. The information I gave you about the racial breakdown, I got it from there. There's also information on business. I had written that one down too. It's called Business Watch, I believe. So just check out some of these Business Watch, I believe that's the title of it.
And if you check out one of them, they'll typically start to link you to the other ones, and you'll figure out which one works for you. But you know, crypto, that stuff is out there. You know, everything ain't for everybody. But
no, it's not.
But you know, what worked for grandmama and them back in the day, and they would go put their money in the savings and all, it's not like that anymore. We just said pensions aren't the same. If you got a pension, it certainly ain't paying you what they were paying grandpa. So you you got to do a little bit more. We're making $1 out of 15 cents. Yes.
Yes.
You have to check it. It's called businessinsider.com, businessinsider.com, CNBC.com. Those are some great resources you can check, because they come out daily and give you daily information, and we got to do our due diligence. Cheray, I know we're a little bit over time. Melba said she had another question for you. Do you have time?
One question.
Yes.
Who do you sell insurance for?
So I am independent now. I not only have New York Life, but I primarily do Pacific Life, Transamerica, Nationwide, and a couple of others. And then I needed to have some specific ones that focus on burial because of what my family does. My family back in Pennsylvania, we have a third generation funeral home there. My husband's family, I think they have 7 now throughout the state of Mississippi. So this is kind of where I found myself. And so prayerfully, we will open doors or at least cut a ribbon or break ground or something for my 50th birthday next year. I need y'all to pray on that because
We will. You look gorgeous.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
It might be a little teeny piece of dirt, but we're gonna pray over that piece of dirt.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we
Okay.
will. And thank you
Yes.
again. Thanks everybody for coming in. We have a guest next week from Pennsylvania. She's going to Dr. Roma Benjamin. She's going to be talking about education. She's an educator. The following week, we're going to have one of that's on here now, Barbara Smith. I believe she's on here still, as she was earlier, that's going to talk up to us about Legal Shield, because we do need that legal advice as well. And moving forward into April, we're booking guests as well for that. So thank you again. What was that in the chat?
I just put that Zero Debt College Fund. That's another resource. I think it's pushed by Black women because we have a lot of economic power to help make sure our students know where they can find funds for school, high school and college, and post-bac and everything. So that's out there too. Please, I would love to come back and join y'all again as a guest.
Yes.
I have enjoyed myself so much.
We want you
Yes.
back, and you guys put
Yes.
down some questions. Oh, Nigel says, that's my sweet, my grandbaby. Thank you, ladies. Glad to have you in, sweet. So we're gonna end the program, and we thank everybody again and again for this topic on Black women and wealth, having it all, because we just have to be strategic about it and have our experts to come in. And as I always tell you, your power lies within you. Let it loose. And that's what we have to do. And we will have Cheray back. You guys get your questions together, because it was great. Thank you so much. And we will see when she can come back to speak with us, because it was dynamic what you did, and we thank you so much.
Just call me. I might be frying chicken, but call me.
I'll be at your house to get some of that fried chicken.
All right. Much love, ladies. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye, everybody, and much love to you all, and thanks for coming in today. Remember, your power lies within you. Let it loose.
Let it loose.
Bye-bye, everybody.